everybody. Welcome to the PVD Horror Podcast. This is Dave. Thanks for joining me tonight. I am very excited. I have a couple of returning guests. I got Toby and John. Everybody knows from the Addams Family, some of our favorite indie filmmakers. Guys, thank you so much for joining me again tonight. I was actually looking, it's been almost 2 years, going on about 2 years since the last time you guys were on. Time has flown.
That's crazy. And thanks for inviting us today.
Dave,
It was fun last time. It'll be fun this time.
Yes, absolutely. If you like all things horror and want to get the best horror news, interviews, and reviews,
like, subscribe, and ring that bell to follow us and satisfy all your horror
last
needs.
time you guys were on, Hellbender was, all the rage. Everybody was talking about it. It was all over the place. And here we are 2 years later, and you guys are back on the covers of magazines and making appearances, and you're talking to everyone about your new film, Where the Devil Roams, sorry. Which is currently
Where the Devil's Roam will be the next one.
Sequel.
That's the sequel. There we go.
And it could have been called Where the Devil's Roam, now that you mention
it. Yes, exactly. There could have been. So yeah, that's currently out on Tubi. I had the pleasure of checking it out. I was, of course, really impressed as always. But yeah, I just was curious, like, you guys have this out. It's pretty accessible. What is, like, it's more accessible to the general audience as far as not being on a paid streaming app, right? So it's not just people who have Shudder that could watch it. Now it's kind of like the general audience. Has that made any difference? Does it feel like you guys noticed a difference? Like more people have been talking about it with you guys or anything like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because it came out first VOD. So,
yeah.
And we realized, it's an interesting how many people don't watch things on like Amazon or iTunes, Apple, whatever it's called these days. Because once it did come out on Tubi, suddenly it was like, oh my God, there are so many eyes on this now,
yeah.
which was unexpected.
And it's cool because that was what was nice about Tubi, was they're opening us up to other horror fans, just
yes.
a different group of folks, and it's really cool.
Do you guys know what Tubi Roulette is?
Tubi Roulette? No.
We're like huge fans of Tubi. That Tubi has some great options on there. But one of the great things to do with Tubi is just to play a random movie, or like put on like a random horror movie, and just continue to let it recommend films for you. And you never know what you're going to watch. You will find some absolute gems. And it really, you can go down a rabbit hole with Tubi. It's really got a great like selection. So I hope that you guys are going to be in that recommendation for the Tubi roulettes. As people let it roll, they'll be like, oh, what is this? And you'll bring in even more audience with that. So yeah, if you ever want to like have some time, try Tubi roulette. You won't be disappointed.
You mean it's offered by Tubi?
No, it's just you let it play, and then they'll just automatically
okay.
start to play things that they feel like you might like.
That's great.
But it's pretty crazy because they tend to play things that, like, I've never heard of this before, or this was, it's interesting, the ones that they end up picking for you. So I actually would, maybe I'll try this. I'll play Where the Devil Roams, and then I'll see what it recommends after that. I'd be interested to see what other
that would be really interesting. We know what we have to say about Tubi is they've been incredibly cool to us. They've been super supportive. It's only been very, very positive, so we're super excited about it.
Yeah. Now, before you guys did Tubi, like you said, you did VOD, but there was some screenings in theaters that happened.
Yeah.
And I know, and we had talked about that. We had tried to do something in Rhode Island. Unfortunately, it fell through. But I know that you had some other locations. Did you guys get to go to any of those screenings? And if so, like, what was the reception, and what was it like being in person watching people?
John got to go to a couple of them in Philly and NYC.
But there was ones that we couldn't get to too. There's California ones, Midwest ones. Yellowvale did a terrific job of getting us out in a lot of theaters. And but the personal experience, like in Philly, magic. I went to a show in Philly, and it was so great. It was fucking great. And the ones in New York City, were at
The Alamo.
the Alamo, and the Alamo was wonderful and great crowd. They gave us Q&As and it was super positive. I was a little nervous about it because it's not like a festival where people like the horror crowd, you know, you go to festivals and you know, it's horror crowds there at a festival. So you're sitting with your own people, but just a theatrical release, I was like, you know, we're tiny, you know, and so it was really fantastic. It turned out to be really great.
I've never been to an Alamo Draft House, and I hear all the time how great they are. Did it live up to expectation?
Yeah. They were fantastic. I mean, they treated us really well, and they sold those tickets, and it was again just super positive. Like we're really having a nice. This has been a great run.
Yeah.
Of very positive people and super cool.
I mean, it really, not to like boost you guys up too much, but it really couldn't happen to better people. Like, think about what you're doing. You're making films as a family. I watch you guys on social media. You're always so supportive to other indie filmmakers, and just like, you don't just promote your own stuff. I see you like I guess I wouldn't be tweeting anymore, re-Xing like other people's stuff. Like, and just like, it's just, you're super supportive, and like, there's not any toxicity to what you guys bring at all. And I just love what you guys are doing for indie horror.
You must be talking about yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I am actually.
Because we feel the same about you. I mean, and it's so wonderful to meet like-minded, positive, creative people like you and the guys there. It's just it's really kind of wonderful. I can't wait to get up to like do something in person with you. We gotta
absolutely
like have a multiple feature thing going on.
Absolutely. I think, you know, and that's the exciting thing for me. It's like, not only have I been able to get to enjoy these films, but like actually getting in contact with you guys and having potential to collaborate on something, it would blow my mind. So absolutely, that has to happen. I'm curious. So like, just thinking about what this experience would be like if I were in your shoes, I'd be super nervous about the questions that I get asked. And I wonder if like, what has that been like? Because when Hellbender came out, I know you guys did podcasts, but like, you didn't get the opportunity really to do in-person stuff, did you? Because we were kind of on the tail end of the pandemic, and I don't know, actually. Let me ask you that. Did you get to do any in-person stuff for Hellbender?
Yeah,
a little bit, but it was still kind of shaky ground.
Yeah,
you know, festivals that were in person were we're just feeling it out, you know.
It was the tail end of COVID, so no, it was nothing like the Deeper You Dig, which was, and then nothing this latest one with Where the Devil Roams, is back to full throttle nitrogen fused rock.
Are the viewers asking you guys some tricky questions, or have they been pretty tame?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like, we love getting thrown a curveball, and
except for mean curveballs. We don't like mean ones.
We don't like mean ones, but it's good to have questions that make us think and really delve into the nitty-gritty of what we've made.
Wait,
really great questions.
Yeah,
nobody's throwing any mean curveballs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, sometimes people.
This boggles my mind when somebody doesn't enjoy something to the point where they're like, I need to say something. I'm like, just walk away. If you didn't enjoy it wasn't for you, walk away. It's the same with like when people leave reviews for things. I'm like, you didn't enjoy it. I mean, unless you really want to forewarn everybody because like it's a danger to society, just leave it. It wasn't for you. Just go. I don't get it, but you know.
Our big thing is, like, first of all, we love questions, we love Q&As, we love conversations, we love that like so much, because we're always learning about like what we're doing, you know, and we're learning what people want and what people like and what we did well, what we didn't do well. So I think like we don't mind hard questions, we don't mind difficult questions, and we don't mind criticism either, as long as it's like you know, constructive and You know, and it's like somebody has a point and they're like, I didn't like the way you did this. And if they don't, we definitely go home and we're like, ooh, what do you think of that? You know, somebody sizzled us on something. What do you think? And if it's constructive and if it's thoughtful, it's meaningful to us.
Yeah.
If it's mean, it doesn't do anything.
I always say this, like, to people I work with, when you're going to give feedback and it's negative, you got to sandwich it. You got to go in with something sort of positive, then go with the criticism, and then you go back to, well, you know, something sort of positive, or, hey, at least you tried. I appreciate the fact that you tried. If you just go in with the mean stuff, the criticism right away, you're going to get defensive. So what's the point of doing it that way? It doesn't solve anything. It's just to be a jerk at that point. So
yeah, well, one nice thing about the horror community is they're like yourself, they're super film educated.
Yes.
So these conversations are really vital to us growing, you know, because like we're constantly learning things, even about what we've done. Like someone will be like, oh, you did like this, and it's you're copying or you're quoting, you know, some movie that we're like, holy shit, we didn't know we were quoting some movie. So we go and we watch that movie. And
wow, we're pretty smart.
Oh my god, like we thought that was really like original, and but no, it's somebody did it 26 years ago. You know, fun.
It's funny to like think about that, because I mean, sometimes things leave impressions on us and we don't even realize how that might come out later in our lives when we think we have this original idea, but it's actually something that was imprinted on us. I sort of feel that way when I watch certain shows, especially like dark crime shows. So much has been influenced by like Twin Peaks. I always think about this when I'm watching those shows. I'm like, oh, I was like, this filmmaker must have watched Twin Peaks and like just wanted to tribute to it, or they don't even realize they're doing it, but there's elements of it all over the place. Or is it just me watching everything through the filter of Twin Peaks because I was such a super fan? But I imagine that probably happens to all of us in some capacity with things that really impacted us when we were, you know, young viewers or whatever.
That's a great point. I think you're right. It's kind of like music too. You know, there are certain songs we grew up listening to on the radio. Like there are things from my deep childhood that are just like in my brain. And if I were writing music like John, I would probably often be writing a riff that's just like out of my drive on the way to like the pool in the summer, you know, in 1976.
You're exactly right. That is crazy. I literally had this thought today because I was driving home from work, put on a song, and just everything about that moment in time right there felt like I was decompressing and I was relaxing. And like, if I were to, like you said, if I were to make a song, I kind of had this thought, like if I were to want to recreate that experience, it would end up probably sounding similar to whatever it was I was absorbing at that time. So it would be like inevitable. It wouldn't be intentional to copy it, but it would be influenced by that. So yeah. Let me, before I go any further, I want people to know Where the Devil Roams is about, so that if they haven't checked it out, they can get an idea of what this conversation's even about. Would you guys want to do like a brief synopsis of the film?
Sure. Toby, you're great at this.
I don't know about that, but okay, I'll go for it. Where the Devil Roams is about a family of sideshow performers who have a thriving. See, I'm already fucking up. It's about a family of sideshow performers who also have a murderous bent. There's Seven, who's got PTSD from World War I. He's a former doctor who's now got an aversion to blood. And he's married to Maggie, who's compelled to release a lot of blood. And then they have a daughter, Eve, who sings but is quiet otherwise. And when her family falls apart, literally, it's up to her to put the pieces back together.
It's basically taking three movies and putting them in the same bowl. And the three movies are Bonnie and Clyde, Frankenstein, and The Grapes of Wrath.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely, I did not put the Bonnie and Clyde part, and I don't know why I didn't see that one. The Frankenstein one, I was like, oh, it's obvious. But yeah, I didn't think about those other two films as being major influences on the storyline. So where did you guys come up with the idea of the story? Like, what made you say like, oh, let's take a little bit of these, or how did that come about?
All of our movies come about because of so many reasons. So we could give so many answers to this.
Yeah.
But tonight, I think the answer is Zelda had done a shoot. Zelda wanted to do a shoot where she was both Bonnie and Clyde. So she was doing a composite of the two. And first she dressed up as Clyde. And my dad has this old 1931 Chevy. And so we borrowed it and we put her in front of the 31 Chevy as Clyde. And then we put her in front of it as Bonnie. And suddenly she was Bonnie and Clyde when we put the two together in black and white. And she posted the pictures online and people were like, oh my God, you need to make a movie like this. And it struck us while we were shooting how absolutely beautiful the car was and the feeling of the 30s. And we always talk about movies. We had been getting into black and white movies. We had been watching Frankenstein, Vampire, Nosferatu.
I love the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
And so I would say, and Zelda, actually, we were driving somewhere and we thought that Hellbender was going to be our last movie before she went to college, because we didn't have a lot of time. And we were driving somewhere like to the grocery store and Zelda was like, hey, what do you guys say we just try to squeeze in one more movie before I go to college? And we were like, oh, like, hell yeah, that'd be great. Do you have an idea? And she came up with this idea. And it was, she had the simplicity of the idea was so beautiful. We were like, yeah, let's start shooting it. And we started shooting it, I think, like the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she had a lot of that lined up when she was describing what she envisioned?
Well, she had the idea of a family of sideshow performers that were twisted but loving. And that was her like concept. And it was like, and that's right up our alley. And also we're interested, you know, a lot of time our movies are documentaries about where we are as a family. And the fact is that Zelda was going away. And this was like believe it or not, this is our most loving movie. And it's like, it's a celebration of a family that just absolutely, no matter what, is going to stick together, even though they're getting split apart.
Yeah. You're exactly right. You guys do have this thing for anti-heroes, I guess that would be, or just characters with duality. Like there's good and evil in them. But you really do bring out, like, you really show off the good. But then they have these bad tendencies. And I mean, that's exactly what these characters are. And it's a really beautiful film. I was telling Toby before we started filming, like, the filming location, which I'll let you guys talk about, like the sets and stuff like that. But I knew right away where you guys have filmed. Plus, I already kind of I knew where you guys are from. But I could tell, like, the aesthetic was very Catskills area. The houses, just like everything. But I'll let you guys talk about like how you decided where to film, and you know, if there's any interesting stories about some of the set pieces or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're lucky because where we live, as you mentioned, there's so many great old houses that are just perfect, just standing still for us to shoot. Like the one right now, we're in John's sister's house. She just put up all this cool wallpaper that we thought could be a pretty like posh house for the 1930s. John's parents live across the street, and his dad's got a 1931 Chevy, which is the Chevy that we shot with. So we're just lucky that so much of the set we would die to have happens to be where we live.
And in many ways, the Catskills haven't changed in 100 years. The roads are still no stripes. They're single lane roads. It's retained its old character really, really well.
And winter looks great in the Catskills. Every season looks great here. Every season really gives gifts, but we love shooting here in the winter.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. There's a scene early on. I think Zelda goes into like a store. I think it's one of like the opening scenes. What was that store? I was curious. Was it an actual like old convenience store? Was it someone's house that like you just
so neat because we were just shooting in it today.
Yeah.
For a totally different film.
Yeah.
No, we just dressed that. We
Okay.
dressed that with pieces that, you know, within the family that we moved into the little bungalow.
It was a classic Addams Family day. So like I got my dad to be the guy who was like sleeping on the front.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that is an old, like basically my sister bought this old rundown boarding house. And it's got all these outbuildings. And if you've been to the Catskills, the Catskills are loaded with abandoned boarding houses, you know, because it used to be a place that people vacationed and stuff.
Yes.
And so this was just an outbuilding. The outside was an outbuilding. We put my dad there. He was passed out, looking kind of dead. That was a fun day. And then inside, we just dressed it with cans and all these leftover pieces from the boarding house. We just, like, they were perfect. They had been sitting for 50 years at
You
least.
had those old jugs and just like I was looking at that. I was like, I mean, but that's honestly, I was like, that could just be someone's house because, you know, there's houses in a lot of houses in the Catskills just have those kind of like old jugs and, you know, and things that like over here, I'm like, oh, look at those antiques, but you know, they're still just present in people's houses these days.
You have to come to my parents' house because my parents' house is just those things.
Yeah.
So you can walk into the dining room. In fact, we filmed the skull smashing scene.
Oh, okay.
In my parents' dining room because everything's from the 1930s.
Including the Victrola.
Yeah, including the Victrola. It's just the way it is. That's how I grew up. Our house was freezing.
Wow.
It had old, not beautiful antiques, but cool antiques.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it wasn't like high end. It was just great stuff.
I just thought you guys did such an amazing job with all the aesthetics, and it's great that stuff was kind of at your disposal. It just really set the tone for exactly like that period piece that you were going for. It looked authentic, and I think that really sold the story. Now let me ask you, when you guys decided to do a period piece, was that like a little anxiety producing? Was it something you've always wanted to do? Like, how did you guys make the decision to like, hey, let's go forward with this?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Because I got a funny story about this one.
Yeah.
After Hellbender, people from California, LA were calling producers and, hey, well, you know, what do you want to, we would like to do a movie with you stuff. And it was really nice. But this one guy called up and was like, you know, I see that you made this movie for this and you need to make a movie. We need to get you a budget for at least $5 million and do something. And he says, what are you working on now? And we were like, oh, well, right now we're shooting like a period piece and about the 30s. And he was like, a period piece? A period piece is dead in the water. And Toby said, eat shit. And we didn't work with that guy. And
well done, Toby. Well done.
And it was so great. She was just like, eat shit. You know, it's just like, and it just is like a knee-jerk reaction. It wasn't me. It's just like, why would you say that? And you know what? So no, it wasn't anxiety producing. It was actually thrill producing.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
It really was. And you know, when we were on the Hellbender circuit, the festivals that we were able to go to at that time, like post-pandemic, whatever, we were stopping all across the country in thrift stores, buying just cool just an arsenal of costumes that we could mix and match for all our 75 extras. And we were, you know, gathering our costumes, and it was really, it actually was really beautiful.
And you know, if one of the things when we started filming, we started looking up county fairs, carnies, you know, any kind of musical things in the Catskills, especially in the 30s, and they were all, one of the things we very quickly noticed was like, oh, it's just muddy and canvases and 2x4s stage. Like it's so not fancy. The art was terrible and primitive. And we were like, wow, this is right in our production house. Like we are right in our wheelhouse with this. You know?
I was thinking like, do you remember that show? I think it was Carnival. That I was thinking it reminded me, like aesthetically, it reminded me of that, like the carnival scenes, but grittier. And it sounds like that's exactly what you were going for, because that almost made it look more beautiful, But this, I mean, you guys, the way it was set up, it was still beautiful, but it was like there was like a grit to it. But it was, I think that's exactly kind of what you're identifying. It's just like that. It's more primitive, I guess, and the money wasn't there, right, at that time. Like
Right.
they're scrounging, right? They're
It was
constantly just seeking out the next meal.
it was the Depression.
Yeah.
The carnival circuit was over. So even if it wasn't the Depression, it was they were hurting.
Yeah.
And we realized pretty quickly that what was more fascinating for us was focusing on the backstage element of the carnival. That's where all the good shit happens, you know?
Yeah.
And so we realized that right away. And so we enjoyed kind of shooting like the guts behind the stage.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. This is a very serious film. A lot of it is, yeah, the tone, I guess, is what I'm going for. The tone is very serious. There's some serious matters, some serious stuff that you guys are going through in the film, like the PTSD piece. Like there's a lot of like tone that's just very serious. Did that ever leak off like camera? Like what was the vibe like for you guys, and how did you get out of that when if you ever like noticed like, wow, this is kind of absorbing us? Did that ever happen at all?
Such a neat question. Nobody's ever asked about any kind of ambient, mood after shooting. I know what my answer is, like, no. We have, I think at this point we're so accustomed to jumping in and out of the scenarios, the acting scenarios, that it was just pure joy, this film. It really, really was.
Also, I think almost the opposite. Like, I think we're able to exercise demons through characters.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So almost when it's all done, instead of being like, oh, I got to get out of Seven's head, it's more like, good, Seven got a lot of shit out of John's head.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I miss Maggie all the time.
Do you?
I still miss Maggie, and sometimes I'll just have to say lines of hers, or in the way she might say things. You know, like we'll be eating, and I'll be like, "I love this hot dog." No, it's just I want to talk like Maggie right now.
Yeah.
But it's
because I loved her so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful that you're picking up two things that were just so important to us, which is that grit, that genuine grit, and also the seriousness of these what we thought were pretty beautiful people. And that's what was fun was, like humans, we all, every one of us goes through it's hard to be alive. Yeah. And it takes a lot. And finding love and sticking with it and being genuine is a great, beautiful thing. And so we wanted these characters to be, as you also pointed out in the beginning, anti-heroes.
Yeah.
And it's like Seven, he's done terrible things. He doesn't watch his wife, but he knows his wife is doing terrible things because he's in the room with her, but he can't watch it. And yet he loves her. It's like, it's that ultimate forgiveness about like, what's true love? True love is being able to forgive anything.
It's what is it? Unconditional regard. Yeah. So no matter what she does, he's not going to change the way he feels about her. And that's exactly what like that experience felt like, watching Seven, who, he can't witness the blood. He knows exactly what's happening, but in his mind, it's never going to change the way he looks at Maggie.
But it's also a fun question because she's doing the same for him. His family left him when he came back because of the terrible things he did and the terrible thoughts and nightmares that he brought home. And they're doing something for each other.
Yeah.
And in the world, you see a lot of families that are hurt, but they stick together. And that's what that story is about.
Yeah. There's so many themes that I could like dissect from the whole relationship of the family, the characters as individuals. There's so many different layers. One of the things I was just thinking as you were describing that was kind of like through their family, they found their purpose, right? So like you said, it's reciprocal. It's like they're there for each other. Without each other, they don't have their purpose. So, there's times where that becomes vulnerable for them. And, I won't get into any spoiler territory. But it's like, you see that with these characters, and there's just like honesty and authenticity to the characters. So I thought that was so well done. I really loved the character development. I'm curious, what did you guys enjoy about, like, most about the characters that you played, aside from their dialects, I guess?
I mean, for me playing Maggie, I loved, when we were thinking of these characters, we were looking for that wonderful conflict. For instance, Seven can't see blood, but he once was a doctor, and he's married to someone who loves blood. And I loved that in terms of what they lose. I'm not really giving this away, because even if you watch the trailer, it's in there. But like for Maggie, I love that she's just this corporeal, like a linebacker lover. She will like hug you to death, literally. And she gets her limbs are the things that are taken away from her. Her superpower. We take away Seven's, his superpower, which is his intellect. And so I kind of love that Maggie, who is not educated at all, just loves so much with her body, with her soul, despite her compulsions. So I just love her linebacker loverness.
Yeah.
I loved Seven's Black Labrador loyalty. It was fun in everything.
Yeah.
It's just fun. I really liked him.
And he's like a sensitive character too. And you like, as a viewer, also kind of want him to be protected. So it's an interesting experience watching him. And it's funny. I love that you guys, and you did this with Hellbender too. Like, you guys don't go heavy on like gender norm roles. So like making Seven a more sensitive character in different aspects, and making Maggie this really strong individual and like strong protector. I enjoy that you guys play around with that stuff. And then obviously, the role that Zelda plays is kind of a combination of both of, her parents. So I just think that you guys really you did a wonderful job kind of developing the characters and making them of interest.
Thank you.
Well, I enjoy how thoughtfully you've watched this movie. And to that statement, one of my favorite scenes is when Maggie pulls out a dress and looks at it, but she wears the pants in the family, and she pulls out a top and puts that on for the last act, where
Yes.
and she wears the right suit for the last act.
Yes.
It's interesting what you're bringing up. That's cool. Because I do feel like in our last 3 films, The Deeper You Dig, Hellbender, and Where the Devil Roams, it's not like we set out to play with tweak gender norms, but each of them is very focused on looking at a different angle, at gender through a different angle. And that's interesting why that is so important to us, that it comes up in all of our films, and that's neat that you pointed out.
Yeah. I have some thoughts about why that could be, but I don't think this is the time or place. We're not doing a therapy session. I won't overanalyze you guys.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for the therapy session.
I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that you are, you have 2 daughters who you have both kind of pushed to be, I wouldn't, pushed is the wrong word, encouraged and kind of fostered to be strong, independent individuals, right? And to take on anything, like anything is possible for them, right? And I see Zelda take on so many different roles outside of, like, she does film, she does modeling, she's going to college. That's because of obviously her upbringing, that she feels like she can accomplish literally anything she puts her mind to. So I think that kind of takes away when you encourage somebody, despite what gender they are, to do whatever you want to do. Don't feel like you have to fit some kind of role or some kind of you have to go a certain path. I think that kind of right there expresses a lot of why your films come out this way. Maybe it's not even intentional. It's just who you are as individuals, and that's just kind of the themes that feel strong to you. I don't know. I could be wrong.
That is really cool.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's music. And you guys also do the music for the film. The score, holy shit, I loved it. I was a huge fan of the Hellbender score, and then this one, right off the bat. Like I said, that scene where she's going in the store, the music starts going there, and I'm like, you guys did it again. I wasn't sure if you were going to score the film again, but you absolutely did. And I saw today somebody ask on social media, or they just made a statement like, I hope that you guys release this on vinyl. Is that intended?
You know, well, the answer is that we love that people like the music is so important to us. You know, it's so cool that people are accepting the songs, and the music for this one was really fun because Hellbender was like, it was kind of all over the place in terms of tone and style, which was really fun. But this one, we all set out as the band Hellbender to have a sound that was like very homogenous to the movie, because we knew the movie was going to have a super particular cinematographic, what is it, cinematic tone. And I'm sorry, I'm bad.
I was like, I'm glad you didn't look at me, because I wasn't going to be able to finish the word for you.
I look at this lady and she always takes me off with the good words. It had a cinematic tone, and we wanted a very special cinematic sound. And we had all been getting into some cool bands like Pigs, and Slow Mosa, and other really heavy kind of stoner bands. And at first, we wrote a couple 1930s kind of songs, and we put them onto the footage, and it was like really bad. Like it was, and it was a small panic attack for a second.
Those might be the B-sides right there.
Yeah, it was no way. They're like the
B as in bad.
Yeah, B as in bad. It was just like, and it was a panic because it was like, oh, this, oh my God, we're gonna get scorched. And then the decision was like, look, we're having fun doing stoner rock with our band. Like, let's just do that and see how it sounds. So we made 3 songs, we put them on, and it was like, this works just so well.
It did. It really did. I do hope you guys release it though, like the way you did with Hellbender. I think
we're definitely going to put it all out. Sometimes making an album's difficult. But yeah, I think that we're going to do it. I'm working on it. You know what the problem is we always have so many pots on the stove that it's like I have we have all these songs, and we put out half of them online, and I got to finish the other half. Yeah. But meanwhile, another movie's being shot, because, you know, and it's like, woo, it's great. It's great chaos. So we can just organize for a second. We're going to put out an album.
Do you guys thrive on that chaos? Is that like what keeps you guys going? Yeah.
I call John a shark. He just never stops moving. Isn't that true of sharks? They just never stop.
I mean, it sounds true. What are they going to do? They just float in. So yeah.
So if I'm a shark, I got to move by the Pro Tools and put that album out. So it's really nice of you to say that.
I think there are some people that just like, you have to have a few, like I'm similar. Like I have to have multiple projects going out at the same time. Otherwise I get like negative thoughts like, oh, you're lazy, you're not doing enough, you're not. So like, yeah, having a bunch of things kind of keeps me going. But I feel that like sometimes finishing the projects, that I could probably improve. So yeah, people want it, so hopefully you can get around to it at some point. I just seeing that comment, I was like, I remember when Hellbender came out, the same comments were happening then. So that's got to be cool to like not just put out a film, but also have people like expressing, oh, I can't wait for this music to come out too.
It's great. And we've been approached a lot. Will you do a show here? Will you do a show? Will you do this festival? And it's just like, we would love to, but Zelda's in college, Lulu's in Edinburgh, me and Toby are, it's so, anyway, this is all good stuff.
Yes. This is all good problems.
So
good problems.
So positive and so cool.
Let me shift slightly. I noticed that you guys have been doing a little bit with like even promoting some of the older films recently. Like just recently, I think you guys did some kind of like social media watch along for Deeper You Dig.
Oh, the Deeper You Dig.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. Like, while you have a new film coming out, it's kind of also bringing attention to the back catalog again. Not that ever disappeared, but it's nice to be able to like remind people like, hey, if you were excited to check this out, don't forget to check that out. And like what was that like doing the the watch along thing. I tried doing that once with some local filmmakers here. They did one, and I tell you, it was hard to like keep up with like typing and going along with the conversations.
That was a little hard because I'm a really slow typer and I don't even type. I like hunt and peck, like this.
Yeah.
But it was really fun to it was kind of trip down memory lane. And that film is a special place in my heart. So it was nice that it's been having a second wind.
Yeah. I just thought about it, and I think you might have alluded to this before, John, when you talk about like each film is kind of like a little portrait of what the family's going through. But also each film, if I remember correctly about the three, there's been like actually something like a significant either change or something a big development in the family for the last three films at least.
Oh yeah.
Toby, I know in the last film with Hellbender, like some of that was also like the news of finding out who one of your parents was. Is that that, which obviously that's a big thing. You just talked about how like Zelda's going off to college, so like that is actually, it's interesting. It's almost like you're making like a family photo album but with films.
Totally.
To like mark
Totally.
different periods in the family's life. That's pretty crazy if you think about it.
And cover it in blood so that it's kind of like, this sounds silly, but you cover it in blood and it becomes more harmless.
There
And
you go. There
you
you go.
can really talk about like, yeah, these issues,
Yeah. That's wild. That just kind of dawned on me because I was just remembering that last conversation. So just interesting how it like the timing of things and how things kind of like what influences and sparks ideas and stuff like that.
It is interesting. It's so fun. And you said something before about music and it's seeping. Like, are you copying somebody, or is it imprinted in you and is it coming out by mistake? You know what I mean? And things like that. And that same thing happens with films. It's things that you're going through that we are putting into our films, maybe not necessarily even realizing like that it's about loss, or that it's about watching your parents get old, or that it's about, but that just comes out in your films. And sometimes it takes a conversation like this for someone to say, oh, your film's about, watching your parents get old. And it was like, oh my God. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. So,
Sometimes
it's purposeful and sometimes it just leaks out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really cool also like for you guys to be able to express yourselves in that way and have these like be able to have things that you can reflect on as a family and say, hey, remember when we did that film, and kind of like what was going on. But it's also cool for people that are fans of you guys to be able to watch from a distance and also see that, as well as see growth, as well as see like just you guys get bigger budgets as you go along eventually, unless Toby tells them to go fuck themselves every time. But all these different markers. I think like we have local filmmakers here in Rhode Island that it's the same thing. It's like we watch them do their first film and then we watch them do their second film, and like watching them grow as filmmakers, and like it's just remarkable to see. So we've been able to do that with you guys too, on a much larger scale, because you guys are getting a lot of notoriety for this, like all around. Fangoria, Rue Morgue, all the horror press has been really just really loving you guys. Were you expecting that?
No, and it's been they've just been so generous and wonderful. It's kind of, I mean, we're so grateful, yeah, no, we weren't expecting it at all.
Right.
It's just it's great. And the people we get to kind of share that space with, right now, on the cover of Fangoria, and there's like a New York thing going on there, like New York filmmakers, and it's like fun to have that kind of connection, and we just couldn't be more happy.
We say thousands of times to each other, we'll be in Telluride and we'll look at each other and we'll say, we're so lucky we get to and the Fangoria comes out and we look at it and we're like, oh my God, we're so lucky that we get to do this. So it's people's generosity from Fangoria and from Rue Morgue and from you inviting us on again, and it's like, it's definitely a super cool community that we're so thankful for. And yeah, we know that we're lucky because we really love doing this. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like, we get up and if it's foggy, it's like, oh my God, it's foggy. We should shoot. We got to shoot. You know, we got to get out and shoot. And that's so lucky, you know,
Yeah.
it's so cool that we're actually getting to make films the way we like to make them, which is kind of to let life tell you to shoot today, or,
Yeah.
you know, it's so cool.
I love that. You're right. Like, not every, like, most people could do that, but not everybody has the opportunity to do it. And know that it like could potentially be now viewed by such a wide audience. Like, there was fog here yesterday. I was able to get my camera, went to a cemetery, took some cool pictures, or at least I thought they were cool. I get to see my photos. But like when you guys do it now, you know that like it could turn into something much bigger, depending on what project you're working on. And that must feel awesome. Like, just to know, like, it's great to be able to do it in general and to have like that ability, but like to also do that and know that like people are going to be able to see this and enjoy this, and I get to add into this community and, you know, share it with other filmmakers that are doing this. I mean, that's incredible.
It's crazy. I mean, I mean, it is pretty wild to know, and that's the horror world for you. That grants us that, you know, it kind of gives permission to like, here, you know, let's play your film on the same platform as this, you know, this Hollywood film. And it's also important too, then that's why it's like social media has been great at meeting people whose films, let's say, don't quite have that exposure yet, but then to like say, hey, everybody, check out this film. You know, I mean, I think the community is very good at like pumping each other up and slapping each other's backs.
And it was wild because we, you know, we made 5 movies where we had jobs of carpenters and waitresses and all the other things that we were doing to buy the little cards so that we could make a movie. And I remember when we were making The Deeper You Dig, I was renovating an old house and it was so cold, but this house was so beautiful. And I remember we've had a lot of conversations back then with, oh, it would be nice one day that if we wouldn't have to work for like 8 to 10 hours and then shoot at lunch or shoot at a certain time, do you know?
Yeah.
And after The Deeper You Dig, that changed. And that was such a like magic moment.
Yeah. That's that turning point, that realization right there, that like, wow, this kind of did what we were hoping it would do.
Yeah, it was really cool. And, you know, we're not like, you know, we're small and we like being small. And we found a really fun audience that doesn't mind that we're small. But it's
I think that's the appeal too. Like, that isn't that kind of the appeal too? Like, you're relatable.
I mean, appeal to us. You know, as far as people that like our movies, I think so. I think that like I mean, I don't know. You would be better to answer that question. You know,
but I think today's horror viewer appreciates and enjoys when they feel like the person that is creating the content that they're watching or that they're listening to is relatable and doesn't feel so far removed from who they are. You know what I mean? It's like you're real people, you're authentic, you're making things not just for the money, not just like, you always hear it when like a new big budget movie comes in, you hear people say, oh, it's just a cash grab. We hate that. We'll still go see it, but we're going to talk shit about it all the way, like all the way home. But when it's like something that we feel connected to because the filmmakers are relatable, or, you know, they remind us of ourselves in some way, it's like, even if like, I don't think it's a perfect film, I have such a deeper appreciation for the film. Right.
Yeah. You know, I just got to shout out Zelda for a second. So she's applying right now to some colleges in the UK next year for a junior year abroad. And then she's an art history major, she decided. So in one of these pieces, she was letting me read them, and she was comparing the kind of film she makes to like the pre-Raphaelites, because she's like, you know, they weren't following the rules of the Academy of the Royal British, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and I might, and she's, and I want to study them more because I might, with my filmmaking, I'm trying to defy the norms from the Hollywood films. And I was just like, You go, you little bitch.
Yeah,
But those
that's
are the movies that we love, though.
yeah.
We love the independent movies for many reasons. One, because generally they're super honest.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm not a huge fan. Now, I love like Hollywood movies. I have nothing against Hollywood movies, but I don't really gravitate towards them. I don't love things to be super well lit. I don't love things to be acted by superstars. It's like, so we'll bring up like a movie like The Harbinger or something. Like there's so many movies that we could talk about. Even When Evil Lurks, or there's so many great movies that are like these independent movies that, number one, artistically they take tons of chances. They're a little, they're usually super unsettling because there's no board. There's no like board editors that are like, I don't know. We just love watching other independent filmmakers and get inspired by them. And I think the horror crowd watches so many movies. Like, again, we were talking about how they're film educated. They're very dedicated to art.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not inside the horror community, you don't know that. Like, I love when people are like, why do you make horror movies? Or, oh, you make horror movies? Oh, like as if it's, you know what I mean? It's so funny.
Yeah.
When you're in the horror community, you realize, oh no, the horror community is super smart, super like film educated. They care. They're very into art. It's like, it's quite deep.
Yeah. We've recently started to do the place where we do our like monthly movie screenings. They do a trivia every week, and we do like a guest spot on like horror trivia every now and then. It's intense. Like, we have to really put our heads together to come up with the questions for that. They're like insane with the knowledge that they have, and like the questions I think are really going to stump people. It doesn't. They're like, I'm like, damn it. So like when Brandon and I were trying to figure out like a recent one that we did, we were like, oh, all right, we're really going to get this, like this one group that is really tough and they know everything, and they nailed every question. We're like, damn, back to the drawing board. But like, you're right. They know their stuff. They're educated. They've done their research, and they love it. And, it's a very passionate group. But it's also, I think you had said this before, but it's like, there's no other genre really where, indie filmmakers can be as accepted as they can in the horror genre. So it's really is something special beyond just like how passionate the fans are. Cause like Marvel fans are probably passionate and Star Wars fans are passionate, but it's a different kind of passionate here. Cause it's accepting of different things, not just things that fit into like this, conform box. Like people will say like, oh, how is that horror? Like, especially non-horror fans will like, why is that horror to me? Like about something. And I'll be like, you don't get horror then. Like, you don't get it. It's like it's so wide. It's such a broad category. I want to ask you guys, since you are such fans of the genre and you guys are so knowledgeable in like indie horror, and you have friends that are in it, I was wondering if you could share maybe some of your favorite films from this past year, and if there's any like films that you're looking forward to or you're excited about that are coming out in the more recent future for people to kind of keep on their radar.
Yeah, I'll start with something I'm excited about. I don't know the title that they're going with, but I just want to say it's something new from Emily Bennett and Justin Brooks, who did the film Alone with You a couple years ago. And I think they have such a promising future, and they're wonderful people. And so they've got something really cool that that they're editing right now.
Are you part of that project?
I have a small role in it.
Okay, you did another one with Emily somewhat recently too, a short film, or is that the project you're talking about?
Yeah, that was by Sean Temple and Sarah Wisner, and they're two other really talented couple, married couple as well. And so for both of those teams, I'm really excited for everything they've got going.
It's such a hard, it's kind of like saying what's my favorite punk band or something like that. Like we watch so many movies. I'm racking my brain because I
got another one though, but something I'm excited for people to see is a film that I saw at Fright Fest in London last summer, and it's called The Moor. And and I loved this film. It was my favorite thing out of Fright Fest, and it's shot in Yorkshire in the moors, and it's just creepy as hell. And I think that writer, Paul Thomas, is really, really talented. So I'm excited for people to see that. I don't know when it's or how it's going to be distributed here, but the
Okay.
more
Yeah, I'll have to
really
put that
like
on the radar for sure.
I loved it.
I mean, I really liked, I have to say that I really liked When Evil Lurks.
Yeah.
It had a big impact on me. I just loved its brutality.
Yep.
It was so artistic. You know,
That
wasn't.
movie did not give a shit either. Like, it was going to show you whatever it wanted to show you, and it didn't care how you were going to respond. Like,
It was
my jaw was dropped.
Yeah, and it was great. And it was like, but it wasn't like I personally didn't find it gratuitous. I found it completely like hell.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a great rendition of hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. I also have to say that I loved, these aren't like, I don't know whether you consider that super independent. I kind of do, but I also really liked Talk to Me. Is that, do we consider that independent, or is that too big?
I mean, it got big, but I think its
Got
roots
big.
were very like indie roots, right? Like,
Yeah, and so I'm impressed by those guys,
yeah.
because they climbed their way through YouTube and then came out with this movie. But the reason I like both when the devil when evil lurks and Talk to Me is because they're about spiritual horror, and I think spiritual horror is something that fascinates me right now. Like, I'm super obsessed with anything like The Harbinger that I mentioned was a couple years ago, but it's also about spiritual horror, and
Okay.
those things get me. They give me chills. They make me think. They make me don't sleep good. And that's what horror is for me. Like that, like Phantasm did that to me when I was 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I need something like those
Yeah.
movies to do that to me now, where I'm trying to sleep and I'm like, fuck, I can't sleep because
I
it's
totally get
disturbing
it.
me, this idea, that I hate this idea that
Yeah.
they've made me think about.
It's funny because I started collecting Ouija boards, and then like Talk to Me came out, and I was like, oh, I wish they had like that hand. I know they made the hand, but like I wish that was like a real thing that like I could collect a bunch of those too, because they're just so
good.
cool.
Oh, good.
I feel that same way that you like how you said about spiritual horror. I used to feel that way with like David Lynch films. There was this weird unease to them, and just like that idea, like I don't really know what's going on, and like I don't know, like it's just strange situations. I used to feel so uneasy, and it would like keep me up at night.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking for that feeling again. I haven't really found things that really get me yet. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I also watch way too much stuff, so I feel like I'm overexposed sometimes.
Dave, have you seen a fun film? This was just pure fun that John hasn't seen yet. I don't know whether it's called Vermin or Infested. It's a French film. Have you seen it?
No, I don't think I have.
Super fun. I don't know if it's out yet. It's either called Vermin or Vermine or Infested in
Okay.
America. I don't know, but it's super.
What is the premise? Because that sounds really interesting.
There's a housing complex in Paris that gets shut, like everyone gets locked in with a lot of a spider infestation, and it's so much fun. And it's,
I just changed my mind. That's going to creep me out. Like that actually was something that will probably keep me up at night, because that's that real stuff right there. That's like, like bed bugs. Like, make a movie about bed bugs and I'll be scared out of my mind. That will keep me up all night. So
yeah.
How about you? Can you recommend something to us?
Yeah, you know what? Those When Evil Lurks was definitely top, like one of the top. Actually, Talk to Me and When Evil Lurks were the top on my list. Off the top of my head, here I am putting you guys on the spot, and then I don't even have my own.
Because it's hard. You know what? It's like we try to watch movies every night, and
yeah,
it's like every night it's fun because we talk about, they're all meaningful, they're all really good. That it's really,
and it's interesting because I have like somewhat of a different experience with certain films. because I sometimes I get the wonderful opportunity like today to actually talk to the filmmakers, and then that gives me a deeper appreciation for the film when I get to see their personalities and how that's influenced in the film, or like I hear a little bit more about the development of the film. We had a lot of fun with Heebie Jeebie TV, which was it's on Screenbox, and it's like it's a just like a fun Halloween like anthology film. But that was a good time. It's more like horror comedy, kind of gross out stuff, but it was just a really good time. Lord and Misrule was one that I liked because I really got into like it's kind of like a folk horror type deal, but it's got like lore embedded in it, and I kind of liked that. So
Sounds
Lord and
great.
Misrule is by the I believe it was by the director of The Boy, and he did something else as well, and I'm blanking on it. He did the sequel to The Orphan, First Kill.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was an interesting one. It was like this little like small English town, and it was just like I had a nice conversation with him that made me enjoy it more. But I really left that film being like, oh, I kind of love everything about it. I do like folklore and things like that. So that was something that was interesting in that film. But like When Evil Lurks was definitely on, and Talk to Me were like my two favorites from this year, I think.
They were terrific.
Yeah, I loved his last one too. Terrified, I loved.
Yes. Yeah. What a strong follow-up to Terrified too. It's like you don't want to let fans of that one down, because that was like when Terrified came out, everybody was like really excited about like what that presented. But then to go to When Evil Lurks as your follow-up films, like, damn, all right.
And
This
he's
guy's
super
business.
nice.
Is he?
Yes.
Yeah, I did a panel with him and Prano Bailey Bond, whose film Censor is phenomenal.
Okay.
I did a panel with both of them in Argentina last November at a festival down there. And yeah, just true to nature, he makes these incredibly brutal films, and he's just a big puppy dog. And so smart. He's really, really smart.
Yeah.
What a cool filmmaker. I'll just, be dying to see everything that he makes.
Yeah.
Um,
I find the
did you?
guys who make Terrifier. I find them in is it Damien Leone?
Yeah. Yep.
I find them super interesting. I like that they're these independent guys who have created a franchise. I think it's really, really cool. Like Hollywood wants to do that, but these guys did it. And so
Yeah.
I'm impressed watching them.
And he did, I mean, he did it by not following Hollywood's rules, like kind of what you were talking about with like, a film like When Evil Lurks, like, just kind of showing what he wants to show. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like this is what I know people want to see, so I'm going to show it.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought of another one that I enjoyed. I know that, it got kind of mixed reviews for like the second half of the film, but Cobweb I thought was really good storytelling. So, but it takes a pretty drastic turn in the second half of the film, and either it connects with the viewer or it doesn't. So I personally enjoyed it, but I just thought it was like some really good storytelling. And was her name Lizzie Kaplan, I think. She does a really phenomenal job in her role, but I just think she's a great actress. So
yeah, that was an interesting one to watch. That seemed like a bigger production to me. If we're talking about the same Cobweb.
Yeah, most likely it did get a big screen release. I kind of forgot about that actually, because it got so overshadowed the week that it came out that it was like, unfortunately for them, they didn't really get the turnout, because I think it came out with some other big budget names that same week.
I loved Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, that was fun.
I fucking loved that film.
Yeah,
it thrilled me. I loved it.
And you know what? We were doing the recap of 2023. I think people forgot it even came out in 2023, because it was so like it was at the start of the year almost. But yeah, that was such a fun film.
Yeah, it was great. We loved it.
Amazing performances. So yeah,
it's funny because it got a lot of hate, and we were like, we were almost not going to watch it because I kept reading like kind of hatred about it, and I was like, I want to watch it, and we watched it, and we were like, oh my god, it's wonderful.
Got to check it out for yourself. That's I almost stopped listening to reviews and like people's feedback. If they're saying too much, I tend to like turn it off and just kind of go in and say, I got to make my own opinion about this.
100%.
So you guys are doing some in-person appearances. I was wondering if you can tell viewers of anything that you guys have in the works or lined up at the moment that you guys know of.
We have a fun movie that we shot in Serbia that is going to be released this year, and it's a monster. It's a rock and roll monster movie. Shudder put it together with a great production team called Not the Funeral Home, and our daughter Lulu wrote the script. Toby shined it up, and we went over and we shot a rock and roll monster movie. And we worked with a wonderful artist named Todd Masters, who's famous in the monster community, making great monsters, and our great effects guy Trey Lindsay. So that's going to be coming out this year.
Wow, I had no idea. That is actually very exciting. Like towards the end of the year, mid-year, any ideas yet?
Not sure.
Not sure yet. But this year, and it was fun to do, and it's a fun one.
Awesome.
And it's
that's great.
Totally different than
Yeah.
anything we've ever done. You know, it was an opportunity when Shudder approached us. It was an opportunity to do something that we could never do as the Addams Family.
Yeah.
You know, we had this idea that we had been banging around, but there was no way we could do it. And then they said, "Do you have anything?" We were like, "Oh, we got this kind of crazy idea." And they're like, "Great, let's do that." And we were like, "Okay, great, let's do that."
Yeah.
This production team took us over to Serbia, and we did it, and it was
And it's a mostly Serbian cast.
Yeah.
You know, half of the film is in Serbian.
Very cool. I'm super excited about that. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Did you guys also score some music, like the heavy metal for it?
Is in it.
Yep, it's totally.
How do you guys have time for all this? This is like, I am so impressed. I am like honestly so impressed with you guys.
Like we're just lucky that because we used to hit nails, and now we're hitting guitar strings.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if you give me the time, give us the time, we'll take it. This is fun.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Fun. Yeah.
All right, that's super exciting. Like I said to everybody listening, check out Where the Devil Roams. It's on Tubi, and you have free access to it, so definitely check it out. There's no reason not to, and I assure you will be impressed and you will enjoy it. And hopefully, like we said, hopefully we can get you guys out to Rhode Island and do some cool event. So we will be in contact. I'm very excited for that. But thank you guys again for joining me and spending your evening with me. This was a lot of fun, and I really just appreciate you guys and everything you do.
Thank you, Dave. We loved this. I mean, this was I love your inquisitiveness and your smart brain, and I want to see your pictures sometime.
And your thoughtfulness watching our.
I mean, your creepy cemetery and
yeah, and yeah, I gotta share some of my the pictures from the Catskills that I've taken. So I will.
Oh, cool.
I'll make sure to.
Grossinger's was the name of the hotel.
Yes, yeah. That's yep.
Well, you took pictures of Grossinger's too?
I haven't been there, but I've been to a lot of different places in the Catskills. I was telling Toby before you came on earlier. During the pandemic, I was spending a lot of time in the Catskills, just taking photos because there wasn't much else to do. So, just the old houses and a lot of abandoned stuff there. It's a playground for that stuff.
It is.
So yeah, I'll have to share those with you guys. So thank you. So everybody, thanks again for tuning in. Where the Devil Roams one last time on Tubi, and just watch out for everything they're doing. We have a monster metal movie coming out, which I'm super excited about now that I know this, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg. So keep an ear out. All right, everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye.